Yeah, let the big dog hunt. Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Kallas Remarks with your host, Joe Staszak, my man right there, the co-host, Steve Kallas. Steven, how you doing, my friend?
All good, Joe. Great to be with you as always.
You too. There's certainly a lull in football for a little bit until free agency gets underway. Hockey has taken center stage, and I'm a little surprised because we talked about the international tournament, and then it became USA versus Canada, and I wouldn't believe how my phone was. I mean, people were really into it last night. And of course, Canada won in overtime. Not a good idea to leave Connor McDavid alone in the slot usually. That usually doesn't work out for the goaltender, but it happens. And Canada won it. But I thought it was cool. I just thought it was, and again, you mentioned it in pre-show. It wasn't Canada versus Sweden or whatever. It was Canada and USA, which, there's a rivalry there. And a lot of those guys grew up playing against each other. Some play on the same team. Not Keith Kachuk, Matthew Kachuk was hurt, didn't end up playing a lot of the game last night, so it might have hurt them, but it was an epic game last night. And I thought the tournament was great. It got a lot of people back into hockey. And the Olympics are in a year in Italy, with the gold medal game being on the 46th anniversary of the 1980 Miracle on Ice team, February 22nd, FYI. So what'd you think?
Well, they had Michael Eruzione there before the game, but that didn't help. I think it was a great game. I think either team could have won. But I will say this. I think it's a mistake for the U.S. to boo during the O Canada because the Canadians had booed up in Montreal. Um, I don't want to go all political on this or something, but well, if someone talked about taking over the United States or making them like a subsidiary to another country, we'd be out of our minds. And I would be booing. I can tell you that, whoever it was, if it was Russia or whoever, I'd be like booing like crazy. But I want to stay away from that for now. I just say the reason I bring that up because, in my opinion, and you heard some of this, frankly, from the players. Um, Hagel from Canada, when they had those fights that the U.S. admittedly started in the first game where the U.S. won, maybe it worked, but he was like, yeah, we weren't playing that for publicity. We were playing that for our flag. That's why we were fighting. And it's interesting because after the game, Trudeau, you can't take our country and you can't take our game. Okay, you should relax as well.
Right.
Um, but look, it was a great game. There's incredibly talented players. Back in the 60s, when I was very, very small, there was only one guy in the National Hockey League who was American. That was Tommy Williams. He played for the Bruins. Before him, Willie O'Ree had played for the Bruins, the first black guy and a U.S. guy. And so it was totally, totally Canadian. It was really Montreal and Toronto every year. There's a book that I once read. I think it was from 57 to 67. One or both were in the Stanley Cup finals every year. Of course, as you know, that's six-team hockey. That's a different deal. I understand. Um, but in terms of the game, it was an incredible game. But I thought Jordan Binnington, and we talked about it before the show. I mean, back in 2019, he was the goalie for the St. Louis Blues. The St. Louis Blues had never won a Stanley Cup. And he went 3-1, 7-game series. He didn't play every game. He went 3-1 against Boston, beating Boston in game 7, 4-1. He played great, 31 saves, I think it was. It was similar to last night. And it just happened to be at TD Garden. So here he is, 6 years later, or almost 6 years later. And his rep is, and you probably know this, his rep is he's really good in big games. He really plays better when the stakes are higher,
Sure.
but he's always one to give up kind of a weak goal here, a weak goal there. You go, what's wrong with this guy? Apparently, there was a lot of pushback in Canada who did not want him to be the goalie. But he was the goalie. He played out of his mind. In the overtime, he had 6 saves. 3 of them were point blank.
Yeah, saw that.
Two of them were from Matthews. I mean, how good is he? And the other one was Brady Tkachuk from the side. He made the glove save. He had scored in the first period.
Mhm.
Of course, as you said, his brother couldn't play. That's a big loss. But I didn't know this before the game. I watched some of the first Canada-U.S. game, and I didn't know that Cale Makar, who's the best defenseman in hockey, if not the world, he didn't play in that last game. He was hurt.
That's
He
right. He
came
was
back.
right.
He played the last two. They were undefeated with him. He was a big part of that game yesterday. And look, whatever we think of Crosby, Crosby's a Hall of Famer and everything, but he's hurt and he's old and he kept playing to his credit. Um, but he didn't really play well. So I just want to go to the end of the game. Now look, Connor McDavid might be the best player in the world, certainly the best player in the NHL according to his teammates. Most people think that. And he's a super duper star. You know, to me, he's lost in Edmonton. They're not winning 4 cups in a row like Gretzky and Messier. Or was it 5 for Messier? I can't. Well, he
He
won one
won. He
more
won 5 there. Yeah.
after Gretzky left. But he was terrible yesterday.
He
He
said
was
he was
terrible.
bad. He said he was bad.
He said, quote, I was not very good all night. Now, he gets an open. I can't analogize this to a layup, but it's about the closest thing you're going to get. He's 15, 18 feet from the goal. He's got the puck all by himself. This Mitch Marner made 2 of the greatest passes you'll ever see. Now, that one, it was a wide open pass. It was easy. But the prior one, when he crossed with Bennett and flipped it to him, and Bennett scored the tying
That
goal,
was unbelievable.
that was an incredible pass. But you got the best player in the world all alone, 15, 20 feet in front of the net, and he made a shot, and good for him, and won the game. But Joe, the best player of that game, the best player of that one game, player of the game award goes to Connor McDavid. Come on now. And he doesn't care. I've heard a lot of interviews with him. He doesn't care about individual stuff. He really doesn't. I was hoping he'd take that award. That was before they gave the MVP to McKinnon. I was hoping he'd take that award and turn around and skate right to the goalie and give it
It
to
was
him
unbelievable.
because this guy couldn't have been more incredible. He was lights out. And again, 6 years earlier in that building, he had won the Stanley Cup in
Pretty
that
cool.
building
In that
against the
building.
Bruins in Game 7. So what bigger pressure is there in the history of hockey than Game 7 in the finals? Nothing.
On the
This was
road.
the big pressure thing, but I thought, frankly, it was caused because of all the commotion with Canada should be the 51st state or whatever. All that, again, I don't really follow that stuff too well. But I'll say it again. I think they were more motivated. I know President Trump spoke to the USA team. I don't know if it was before the game or the night before. You can win it. You're better than them. Bring it home. But there was such a anti-Trump feeling in Canada as a result of this. And again, I don't want to go down politics lane. I just think it helped them to be even more
Probably
upset.
gave him some motivation, sure.
Yeah. And so, but look,
Bulletin board material. Thanks, Prez.
the USA could have easily won that game. They had multiple chances.
Mm-hmm.
But don't forget, Canada, I forget who it was, had hit the post in the third period. It was a trickle shot from, there might have been McCarr, I'm not sure, but it was from the blue line. And it hit a couple of guys and hit the post. You talk about a game of inches.
Yeah.
Could have won as well. Hellebuck had been the best goalie. He is the best goalie in hockey now. He's taken over for the guy from Tampa Bay who won the Cups.
Vasilevsky.
Vasilevsky. But in this game, in these high stakes, apparently Bennington is known for doing what he did. And he stood
Great.
on his head,
Great.
especially in the overtime. I mean, you got Austin Matthews, who's one of the best players in the NHL, point blank a couple of times. And Kachuk, after he made a save on
Yeah.
after he had made a real big save on Matthews, the puck went over to Brady Kachuk at the side.
Other than that.
I thought he had him, and he had the glove up. And then off the next face-off, another glove save on
It was a great glove save.
Matthews,
On Matthews.
and that's got to be disheartening. I mean, not that I thought you
Frustrating,
would
sure.
worse,
Yeah, you feel like you
but the
can't.
problem was, I think it was McCarr who threw it around the boards for the game-winning goal to Mitch Marner, and everybody in front of the net went to Mitch Marner. And
Anyone want to cover 97?
wide open 15 feet again. I won't say it's a layup because you got to make a shot against a real good goalie.
And he did.
And he did, but I just thought it was a travesty that this is just for one game, not for the tournament. They gave it to McKinnon, 4 goals in 4 games. He scored the first goal yesterday.
Great.
So I don't know. I don't want to really harp on that, but it was great for hockey. But I'll say it again, if you're going to do this every year, unless you get Russia, Russia is banned from the Olympics, I think, because of invading Ukraine. Again, don't want to go political, but Russia, as you know, I was like, so where was Ovechkin? What was he doing?
Yeah, right?
And I don't know if they could take the best 4 Russian players or the best 4 players
That's a
who are in
shame.
those 4
Yeah.
countries. And if you're going to do that, not a bad idea. But to me, it would have to be like Canada, USA, or if Russia comes back, hopefully that war ends yesterday, but USA, Russia, Canada, Russia, Sweden has a good team. I didn't think Finland was competitive myself, but that's the best they could come up.
You gotta get the Red Army team back.
Right. So, we'll see what happens with that. But this was great because it was Canada, USA, because of the strife, I guess, between Canada and the USA, which one would hope wouldn't happen. I mean, they've been our next door neighbors for,
Yeah.
however many hundred, at least 250 for the United States. So, but again, fabulous for hockey. Um, Fabulous for Canada, I guess. The USA played well. They do have problems. You saw the history. I'm sure they've lost now 4 out of the last 5 in international play. Um, but yeah, I give Bennington all the credit in the world. 6 years apart at the TD Garden, so he essentially goes on the road to win a Game 7 in the Stanley Cup Finals and to win this game, which was gigantic from another perspective. It was the championship game, but again, there was a lot of this political
Sure.
stuff I'd rather
Not the clutch
leave
team.
somewhere.
Clutch team.
But I give them all the credit in the world. And, the US will be back and we'll see what they do next year. This is 100 times better than the usual NHL All-Star game.
Thank God, right? That's
Talk
what I
about
mean.
the
It was
NBA.
huge. It was
We'll talk
huge.
about the NBA ever, but the NHL All-Star game has to be this going forward. Will it ever be as great as this? Well, yeah, maybe if Canada and the US
Maybe.
play again next year.
It was tremendous. It really was tremendous. And they cared about it. They were into it. It's not like, well, let's transition to the NBA. They are what they are, and the whole, you got guys, superstars that don't want. I mean, didn't like Michael as after a while didn't want to do the dunk contest. You see, what I do like is that little white kid from the Magic who jumps over cars and stuff and still has room to clear. And to me, that's I mean, it's like Spud Webb when he won once. Like he's like this tall, and
Yeah.
the leaping ability. Matt, I forget his last name. He was part of the Sixers organization, but that was kind of cool. Um, I know our girl from Iowa did not. She was offered to play a shooting 3-point contest, which would have been a novelty. Caitlin Clark did not play.
Well,
But
I don't know, when you talk about it, I mean, nobody ever talks about it, but the WNBA uses a smaller ball than the NBA, and
that's true.
I believe the 3-point line is closer. So I don't know
It
what
is. It's different. Yeah, it's different. But she hits
I don't know.
bombs. But you're right. There's a difference in the ball, which totally I think makes a difference.
Yeah.
We,
Well,
but
I will say this about the All-Star game. Once again, so when I say the hockey All-Star game in the past, it was going to be like 10-8 and we're not hitting anybody. Obviously, this is much better what they did yesterday. And I think what the NBA did was better because I think these guys certainly played harder than they normally play. But at the end of the day, you have Team Shaq beating Team Chuck, and it was whoever gets to 40 first. And look, they played a lot harder. LeBron didn't play. He took he was hurt a little, I guess.
load management.
Curry gets the MVP. He had 4 threes, including one from half court. Okay, whatever. Um, but it's just not quite, it's certainly not up to the NHL because the NHL were hitting these guys to hurt them.
Oh yeah.
But I think what they did now, for example, Kevin Durant was like, I'd just rather go East v West. Unfortunately, and it's 130 to 125 after 3 quarters, and then everybody tries to play defense. Um, and this was, I don't know, they had the rookie, the first and second year guys, the winner of that came and played in the tournament. So the old guys were going to play harder and they're not going to lose to those young guys. Although I did hear Stan Barrett, who I like on ESPN, he goes, "You want to make them play hard? Give 2 million to the winners and 1 million to the losers."
They'll play hard. They will. That's actually not a bad. I mean, money talks.
Hey, it's all about the money.
All about the money.
So I mean, I watched some of the NBA, but and look, they did play harder for whatever that's worth. But now what were the first games? Were the first games to like 25? I think only the
Yeah.
finals were to 40. I didn't really follow
It's a
it.
little gimmicky.
But
Yeah.
when you're watching Team Shaq against Team Chuck, and maybe we'll see him on TNT in the next few weeks, and Shaq has bragging rights, but as Shaq always says to whenever Barkley gets out of hand, which is often, Shaq just says, Yeah, how many titles did you win?
He always
Which
does
is
it.
kind of cold, but also true. I will say, getting back to the regular season of the NBA, though, Cavaliers won again. I think they're 45-10. It's their best start ever. I think
Good
they're playing
squad.
tonight. Uh, the Lakers came back. They had the first came back and they lost to the 13-39 Hornets. Now 14-39 Hornets. And Doncic, after the game, I'm rusty. LeBron stuck up for him and said, "Look, the guy's played 3 or 4 games since Christmas.
Yeah, that's true.
Had to give him time." But Doncic yesterday, 14 points. I'm sorry, Wednesday in the loss. He didn't play yesterday when they won. 14 points on 5 for 18 shooting,
Why
11
didn't he play?
rebounds.
Why didn't he play?
I don't know. I don't know if he's hurt. He said he was rusty after Wednesday's game. He hasn't played that much. Maybe he's not going to play back to backs at the beginning. Don't forget,
What?
AD is gone and he's out for a month. So I don't know what the train was.
80's 31. Luka's like 25.
No, you're right. You're right. And they did beat Portland last night. LeBron had 40 points, 8 rebounds, and 11 turnovers, but they won the game by 8. So I guess that doesn't matter. But I rarely see, forget LeBron, you rarely see an NBA player get
11
10 or 20
turnovers.
turnovers. So that was weird, but they did win. The Knicks had to hustle to beat the Bulls in overtime. The big news, which you probably did heard, which I is Wemby's out for the season. They found a blood clot in his shoulder,
Yeah.
and it seems precautionary. Um, but even without, I heard an interview with KD. We're not playing that well. We should be better. Did he want to be traded? No, I want to do something here. But certainly their trio, now Beal has been hurt a lot, I think, right? Bradley Beal
Yes.
is number 3. But he said essentially, no, I want to stick around. I want to play. We can do better. We should do better. You got to talk to the higher ups about what they're going to do with the team. But without Wemby, the Spurs beat the Suns last night 120 to 109. And now the Spurs without and they did get Fox. Fox and Wemby will be the best 1-2 for like 10 years when they're both healthy and a little older. But Fox, 26 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists, led the way. But the Suns lose by 11. Their record is 26-29. They got Booker, they got KD, they got Beal on and off. They should just be better. But maybe the theory, which I've always thought, you need like 1, 2, 3. Started kind of with LeBron and Dwayne Wade and Kyrie making, when they went back to Cleveland, Kyrie making the biggest shot ever to win for Cleveland. I'm just not sure now. I just don't know. And so, but we'll see what happens. That's the beginning of the second half of the season. But a lot's going to happen. Boston and Cleveland to me look like the best teams.
They are.
And we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. Yeah, I don't know if there's going to be basketball in Philly anytime soon. Embiid still has that knee, and I think that was the problem all year. But they're a mess. Paul George, when he plays, isn't good. It's Tyrese Maxey, and that's about it. But yeah, I'm looking forward to NBA playoffs, and of course, baseball starting up soon. I just have one bit of news before we go. I don't know if you heard this, but the Yankees have lifted their facial hair rule. Did you hear that?
I did. I never understood the 50 years before it, but whatever. It is 2025.
Still has to be a clean type beer, whatever that means, but apparently, yeah. You can have
Well, we should also add that Aaron Boone got a 2-year
you did
extension.
get a 2-year extension.
I'm on the fence on that. He's, 8 years. He got to the playoffs 6 times. No, no, no. If you're a Yankee fan, you're 0 for 8.
Right. I mean, exactly. They measure success in World Series
And
championships.
and I know we'll talk about baseball eventually when the season's starting, but the Dodgers the Dodgers of are the Yankees of yesteryear. They
Yeah.
just talk about the rich getting richer. I mean, it's just incredible. And apparently Otani's going to pitch in May.
Oh, is he really?
I read something, and I know he's throwing in the bullpen now, but I'm sure that's kind of a slow return because he had what he
Tommy
had,
John, yeah.
and the question is later in life will he just be a DH because he showed last year he's an MVP at DH.
Unbelievable, right?
So we'll see what happens.
He's certainly still not Babe Ruth. I don't want to hear that. Just like I heard them on the morning show asking PK Subban if Connor McDavid should be mentioned in the same breath as Wayne Gretzky.
Oh, please.
Yeah, yeah, you can mention him in the same breath. Doesn't mean anything. I can mention him in the same breath. It doesn't stop with that. But anyway, good stuff, my friend. You can follow Steve on his daily Facebook forum page, Speaking of Sports, with Steve Kallas, also on all his videos on WestchesterCountyPost.com. You can find this podcast every Friday, sometimes Saturday on YouTube. And you can follow me on Instagram at Joe Staszak 4799, on Twitter, X. Joe Staszak 975 on Heavy.com. Still covering Eagles. They named a penguin after Saquon Barkley. That's the story I'm running today. So it's gotten a little light. So from the aquarium in Jersey, but there's more to that story, but it'll be out later today. But good stuff, brother. Have a good weekend and hang in there. 7 months till football.
Always a pleasure,
Yeah, you
Joe.
too, brother. I'll talk to you. Thanks for folks for watching. Hmm.